Hello, in this video I'll show you guys how navigation and responsive portion of navigation is built. So again, on resize it just becomes the hem icon, and on click navigation drops down from top to bottom basically. Okay, let's see how it's built. Okay, let's first take a look at our markup. So what we have here, we have our header. Header contains h1 and then nav with a class of topnav, which contains UL with our navigation menu items: work page, about, blog, and contact. Okay, so it also has the button element with a class hem icon, and also it contains a span with the Fantosum icon. Okay, and in the previous video I mentioned the JavaScript. So we have some JavaScript here that powers navigation. So I'll explain it later, but just the first it has a function. Okay, and basically what happens is a Window.matchMedia method. It detects the media query of 960 pixel, so it just detects the media query in this variable. The next variable navtop is document.querySelector .header. Return the first element within the document that matches the .header class. So basically this one returns our header. This one, header that wraps navigation in h1. The next is a variable toggle, which is returns the hem icon. So return the first element of the document matches .hem icon, which is our button. And then there's also media query response. This ensures that the add listener function is executed when the page loads. Okay, so we have function within function. This function is contains the if-else statement. If media query matches, execute click or click menu event. Otherwise, or else, remove responsive class when it doesn't match. So meaning when the page is more than 960 pixels, like wider than 960, remove responsive class. Okay, and remove event listener. Okay, also this line navtop class toggle responsive, it adds class responsive to the header. So I'll show you guys later when we go through the CSS for the header. But basically this line, it adds, because it also uses same navtop, same variable. Okay, it is triggered via the same variable navtop, and when the media query matches, basically this line, it adds a responsive class to the header. I'll do inspect on via Google DevTools. So I will do inspect, and you'll see, guys, that the responsive will be after header class. Like it's gonna be class, header, and then responsive. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so basically what I wanted to mention before is we have our header, and the technique used here is that we have a drop down. Sorry, I just removed CSS. You guys don't see any styling, but the way this works is here we have a drop down. We have a effect that navigation drops down from this point. So it drops down here. So the way this is achieved is that it's accomplished by putting a white background, and I'll show you how it's done. It's a white background over here that hides the navigation if it's not clicked, so it sits here. But if it's clicked, the effect, it drops down from this white background that hides the navigation. And also we're using some Z indexes, Z index 1000, and I'll show you later that's Z index 999 and then Z index 998. And we manipulate those Z indexes to put, for example, the H1 and this nav on top, so they are visible, okay, and the button, but I'll show you later. Okay, so let's just start with the first rule, and the first rule would be our header. We target our header. Okay, I already have the rules. I'm just gonna copy and paste, just explain the code. Okay, so it's header display flex, justify content space between, and then align items baseline, and we also give it padding 70 pixels from top to top and bottom, left, right, 6 pixel. Why we use align items baseline? Because this allows, and you will see later, this allows to center vertically the hem icon with the H1. So that's why we're using baseline on this. Okay, and justify content, you guys already know what it does. It's just a space between horizontally. Let's see what's any change. Okay, space between horizontally, and now we have our button, our nav, and our H1. Okay, next rule is header H1. We're targeting our H1. And for this we have just some font height, font weight. It's 900. Text transform uppercase, so it just becomes capital. All letters become capital, and then I remove margin from H1. Okay, and this is pretty much the end of the header itself. I'm just gonna comment this. So this is header start, and then the next one header end, and then we have our top nav, and top nav that contains UL. So we're targeting UL. So via this class, so dot top nav UL. The first rule for this is this one. And remember, because as I mentioned, we can put flex inside flex. So we give display flex to top nav UL, and we remove margin and padding, and also we remove bullets. Okay, now it looks like this. Then we also give some margin left on this. So margin left on the LIs, just to put to add some space. Okay, now there's some space. And you can play, guys. You can put those outlines. If I don't want to spend time on just showing those how much width each element occupies, but you can use those outline to see how much space each element takes on that within the header. Okay, top nav UL LI, so it's margin left 2.9, and then we're targeting the anchors themselves. Just give some styling to the text, to this one, like work, about, blog, contact, which is contained within our anchors. So again, we just make them a font weight. I put 400. Color, text transform, again uppercase, and text decoration none, removes underline. Okay, so no underline now, and this is how it looks now. Okay, next one is we just give some on hover different color. just some different, slightly different on hover. And then what we need to do next, we need to hide our ham icon, and I'll show you why we're hiding this later, but for now we're hiding it. So we do display none. Okay, now it's hidden. Now this is our navigation and H1. Okay, and that's pretty much the end of styling the navigation itself. It's just a regular portion, non-responsive. Now we have to we have to do the responsive part. Okay, I'll just put some, and the way we do it, we use media query. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy and paste. I already have the code here. So media query, and the first chunk of rules, we are activating our ham icon, which is our button. So we make it visible by display block. So first here, so before media query, it's not visible, right? So after media query kicks in, it becomes visible. Also, we add a cursor pointer, which it becomes a hand, and we just give it some color. Okay, let's now see. I'm just gonna do inspect. So our media query is 960. So let's see what happens on 960. Okay, now you see it becomes visible, and now this is our cursor pointer. It becomes a hand. Okay. So next one is our header. We have to do something with the header, and we're given header position relative, and this is, I'll explain why we need that. So it's header position relative, and also we do flex wrap. So why we give header position relative is because the next rule would be header before, with a pseudo element before, that would be using position position absolute, and we're using position relative to for the header to become the parent for the position, for the absolutely positioned child. Okay, so that's why you're using position relative, but I'll show you guys. And flex wrap, just to wrap the items within the header. Okay, so because position relative here, it creates stacking context for the absolutely placed child. Okay, so relative. Then the next rule is we're also targeting our H1. Okay, header H1, we give position relative z index 1000. Okay, and why we do position relative here on H1, because for the z index to work, so it needs to have a position on that element. Okay, that's why. Also 1000, we will have three z indexes, 1000, 999, and then 998. The elements with the lower z index always be behind of the elements with the higher z index. So this z index 1000, it places the h1 on top of that. You will see it on top of a background overlay for the header element, and I'll show you guys later. Okay, h1, and now this rule that creates the actual overlay. So it uses before pseudo element, and it uses z index 999, and then we give left, right, bottom, and top all zeros, and then explain why. So it's all zeros. And then we give it some transition for the background. So this one we close. Okay, what's happening here? Let's see. Okay, so before pseudo element, so now you can see it if we do inspect. I don't know, guys, if you can see it here, but sorry, not head, but the in the body, and then it's a wrap, and then header. Let's see, 1 second. Okay, now you see this on 960 media query, it injects before pseudo element here. Okay. Okay, so that's the first one. So again, back to this header before. So this is the first portion for the overlay. So it's a content and then position absolute. So position absolute, this is the child of this one. That's why we gave header position relative. So header becomes a stacking context for this one. Position gives stacking content for position absolute. Okay, and also z index 999, meaning this h1 would be on top of this because this one has lesser z index, lower z index. Okay, and y left, right, bottom, and top all 0. This is interesting. This is because specification says that the block will fill all available space in its offset parent, which is the body or position relative container, which is position relative container is this, meaning that, in other words, that this just makes the overlay cover all the header. So left offset 0, right offset 0, bottom 0, and top 0. Okay, so that's why they're all zeros. And so background transparent. And then the next one, we have this rule, which is injected by this class, this one, responsive. Remember, I showed you guys in here, it injected by this line of JavaScript. Okay, so header and then responsive before. We do transition. We transition background from transparent overlay to white overlay. To white overlay. Okay, so it makes overlay white, so it's transparent at first, but when the media query kicks in, the background becomes, from transparent, it becomes white. And this is for the navigation to hide behind the white background, actually. So now navigation hides behind this background. Okay, let's see if we change it, just actually say like maybe like yellow green. Let's see if we can see it. Not yet. Okay, I'm just gonna change it to white, but we'll try it later. 1 second. So it's white, and okay, and next one, we target our hem icon, which is our button. So to put it on top of the overlay, we give it like higher Z index, which is 1000, same Z index as H1. Okay, and then we remove border, remove margin and padding, and make the background transparent. So basically we are just give it some styling, but give it position relative and Z index. Again, remember I mentioned that Z index needs position to be other than static in order to be effective. Okay. And next we give some styling to remove default stylings for WebKit based browsers. This one. Then remove default styling for Mozilla Engine based browsers. Then this one, and then remove default styling for platform native styling for user operating system. Okay, and the next one, we remove the outline. Okay, let's see what happening with the hem icon. Okay. Okay, so this is done. Next one is we give our hem icon, our button, some on focus different color with on focus pseudo class. And on focus, this is when somebody clicks or hovers over or uses the keyboard tab key, clicks, taps, or uses the tab key. Okay, this is on focus, and on that we give just a different color. Okay. And this one just to target differently, again on the responsive, with the class responsive. Okay, when the media query kicks in. And now I just should change this slightly differently. Yeah. Okay, this is done. So next one is we're gonna do our top nav. Okay, so we have some rules for top nav. The first one, so it's top nav, we give it flex shrink. One means can shrink, sorry, grow. First one, it's flex grow. It's a shorthand: flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis. So flex grow 1 means can grow, flex shrink cannot shrink, and flex basis is 100%. Okay, then width 100% this is required for some reason for the iPhone. This is what on your point for sorry, side point forms what they was explained. It was explained to me. Okay, then it has order 1. So order property with the default is 0, meaning flex items by default they're displayed and laid out in the same order as they appear in the source document, but you can change the order 1. Okay, so this is needed for this top nav. Then position relative. Again, position relative we need it here because we're given a different z index to top nav, and we're given it z index 998, which hides it behind the white background. You see z index 999, but top nav has 998, so it's going to be behind. Okay, so it hides it there when it's not in use. And that's pretty much it for now. Okay, let's check. Okay, this border position relative and z index. Let's see. Okay, so next one we target our, and again this is all those rules are within, we're staying within our media query. Okay, then the next one we need to target the UL. So in UL we need to, this rule, this next declaration set of rules is to hide, to remove the navigation with the position absolute, and to hide it first. So position absolute, then first we give it like position absolute, and then left and right 999, the negative. So it just this section, it just makes sure this right, it pushes it off of the left side of the screen, so it hides it. Then opacity 0, which is non-transparent. And then we need this one. It's a transform translate y function, the transform property with the translate y function. So what it does is this, with, because it's negative, y-axis, it's a vertical axis from top to bottom. With negative 100%, it moves it vertically up. So it's completely removed, invisible. Okay. And then we need the transition, some transition, and display block. So transition, we do transition, we do transition on transform. So we're going to be transitioning this one. Then we're going to be transitioning opacity, and then left and right. And then we need display block. We need display block to reset it back from display flex before media query, because it was display flex, same like same selector, top nav UL. I'll show you. This one, top nav UL, it was display flex, but now we needed a display block. Okay, so it's reset from that. Let's see what's happening. Okay, not yet, because it's gonna be the another rule which would, because right now it's hidden. Okay, so it just all this chunk all this. All it does is just it removes, because the position absolute, so the element removed from the flow and placed on top of other elements. However, because it is within the parent container topnav with z index 998, it gets hidden behind previous elements with z index 999 and 1000. Okay. So next rule is this one. Remember, on click, this gets injected there by JavaScript, and then we give it topnav UL. So left, again, left 0, right 0, and then top, it pushes. Now it is gonna push nav from the top 70 pixels, and then transform, same translate y, we give it 0, so it cancels translate y from the previous rule, and then because of that it pushes it from top 70 pixels. Okay, and we're given the second one, the next rule is gonna be opacity. So it's gonna be opacity 1, which means transparent, and then we give it transition. And what we're transitioning is, again, transform and opacity. Okay, so let's now see. Okay, now you see it drops down, but it's not styled yet, but it drops down 70 pixels from there. Now we style some ULs, li, and anchors within those. Okay, so we make them display block, and then width auto, margin 0. Okay, so now display block. Okay, and the next one we do so we give some styling to the anchors themselves. Basically, it's a main styling for the responsive nav. This chunk, it makes it look like actual navigation items. So it's gonna topnav UL li and then a. So we give it padding, text align center, some background color, and then some text color and some border. You see, in the previous rule we give them display block and then width auto. So on that 960 media query, it just becomes width auto, so it occupies the container. And then now we give it some style, and let's see how it looks now. Okay, on click, you see it drops down on click. So this is our styling for these items. Okay, and the next rule is we just give some on hover behavior. So topnav li on hover, just a different color. Okay, so that's our on hover. Okay, so what I wanted to show guys is how this class is responsive injected. Okay, so let's just see, because remember I mentioned the JavaScript, it adds it to the header, so it's like a class. If we do inspect and on the header, let's see, 1 second, you see this one, header, right? So when it hits 960, this is our before for pseudo element for the overlay. But let's see here, on click, you see, on click it adds responsive here. Okay, removed, we click and then we have class head and then second responsive. So this is pretty much how this layout including navigation works. So but you guys can see the links below the video, and if you need the more detail. Okay, and as always, thank you for watching.